Hey there friends, welcome to our first video ever here on Fun Games Only. I am your host, Amanda McKnight, and I want to know, we are doing a how-to on Victorian Masterminds today from Simon Publisher with two of my favorite designers, Antoine Bauza and Eric Lang. But I want to know from you, is this a thing you guys want to find out about? It's not coming out until January, so I thought it would be interesting. If there's something else that you want to learn how to play, you need help with, please let us know in the comments below. I am more than happy to do a video of it for you, or if there's something that you think would be really funny or ridiculous to watch us play through. So the objective of this game is to get the most mayhem points. The idea of the game is that we are all evil masterminds and Sherlock Holmes is MIA. And so we are going to go around to different cities and ransack them and just cause a bunch of mayhem. Whoever has the most mayhem points at the end of the game will win. There's a few different ways you can get those mayhem points. So one of the ways is by building your escape device there. The other way we can get some mayhem points is through our missions on the board. And the other way we can collect mayhem points is through stealing buildings. That's right, we're literally going to be going into cities and taking their most prized buildings. So where can we go in the game? We can go to London, we can go to Moscow, we can go to Paris, we can go to Rome, or we can go to Washington. Unfortunately, there's no Toronto in this game. Sorry, Canadians. What can we do here? So we can take these chips, which are our characters, our assistants, who are going to help us complete these dastardly plots. What you're going to do on your turn is you're going to take one of these chips, you're going to assign it to one of the cities. Once we have 3 chips on that spot, they're going to flip over and activate. But let's talk about what they do. What can we do with these chips? So first of all, the main thing you can do is you can collect resources. You're going to need certain resources, firepower, in order to steal buildings. You're going to need certain building materials like copper and steel or bolts to build your device. And you are going to need, of course, Da Vinci codexes to, keep yourself entertained while you're traveling around on these diabolical devices. And you can also, of course, get scientists. The scientists will allow you to do a variety of different things later in the game. So they're just geniuses you kidnap who help you out. So what we are going to be doing is when we place a token on one of these spaces, we'll get one of these basic actions. So we'll gain one of those things. And the other thing that we will gain is we will gain the function of that person. So the different characters that we can add to the board here are the saboteur. The saboteur will cancel the next token that is played. So for example, we have a scenario where in this pile, there's 3 here, so it activates, we flip it over. It's always the first laid token that'll activate first. That's a saboteur. So this character would get a scientist and they would get to add that to their board. They would also get to sabotage the next player. However, the next player was themselves. So cool thing about the saboteur, you can never sabotage yourself. Obviously your saboteur knows everyone that is part of your group. However, if we played this here, we have a scenario where this person played a saboteur and the next player to come up is green. So this person would actually cancel that person's ability. This ability here is number 2. So number 2, what they'll allow you to do is grab 2 of that function. So if we had a scenario where this had been played, this person would get 2 books to add to their library, and then the next person would have sabotaged us because we are playing as red. So not so good for us. So now what we're going to be talking about is our henchmen. So if you play your henchmen, what they'll allow you to do is they will allow you to see if you can complete the mission there. So for example, here, green played a henchman. If they had 6 firepower, then they would complete this mission. So if they had 6 or more. However, on the firepower track, they're only at 4, so not so good. So they unfortunately will not be able to collect that. So this player here, they have their henchman, which they've played. And what is going to be happening there is they have completed this mission. This mission means if you have 6 or more firepower, then you've completed it. So because they've played their henchman goes out and says, you know what, I'm gonna complete these missions for you. We do have 6 or more firepower. We're sitting at actually number 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Sweet. So we gotta keep this. This will give them 3 mayhem points for the end of the game. Remember, I said missions get you points. The other character that we need to talk about, of course, is our gunner. Now, I love this game partially because as well we have so many female characters. So when you actually look at your chips here, you have 3 ladies to two men. How cool is that? Not so many games have things like that, and it's awesome to live in 2018 where we're seeing that happen in the board game industry. Very, very neat. So what we have here is this is our gunner. Wherever we play our gunner, What our gunner is going to do for us is when we get to the gunner, they will basically allow us to steal a building. So not only would we gain our scientist if we were blue, but we would also get to steal one of these buildings of our choice, as long as we have enough firepower. Now let's check. Does blue have enough firepower? We know they do because blue is above our Secret Service meter. So this is how suspicious the Secret Service is of us. Right now they're level 3 suspicious. If they ever get all the way to 12, that'll end the game. So blue would actually be able to take a building. They would take a building. And my house rule for this is you create a little claw above the building you want and you make a little sound effect with it. So, and you take it over to your board. So they just stole the Eiffel Tower. That's pretty awesome. Unfortunately, the Secret Service, every time we steal a building, they get a little bit suspicious. And the next player, that's us, we're doing so badly in this game. We unfortunately do not have more firepower than the meter. So we would gain our scientist, but then we don't have enough firepower to steal a building, so this action would not happen. If you can't do the secondary action of the character, then you just don't do it in the game. But you will always get your basic action for placing that chip in a spot. The last and final character that we are going to talk about is the most complex one. That is the engineer. So the engineer, he's got a sweet mustache, and what he allows us to do is based on the rooms we've actually built in our ship. So he works with our machine here. So actually, as we build more of our machine, we level up our engineer's ability. So when the engineer first comes into play, it just has your engine room ability. So for example, every time I play my engineer, I'm gonna get this basic ability for it. So if, for example, I had played my engineer over here, let's say, this would give me a scientist when it activates, and it would also just give me either a bolt or a copper. But, you know, I want to make my engineer cooler. So right now I've built this room. This means that anytime I play my engineer, I will get a bolt or a copper. Plus, because this room is built, I will also get to choose any face-up mission, and I will get to, if I've completed it, I will get to claim it. So for example, right now we are at 6 firepower. So if I played my engineer here, I would get a bolt or a copper. And then I would also get, I could say, you know what? I'm gonna take this mission because we do have 6 or more firepower, and that is complete. As soon as these are taken, they replenish automatically. So just know that. So how do we build rooms again? Right, I didn't really talk about that. So let's talk about that. So remember how I said we're collecting bolts and copper? We're gonna take those every time we have a chip that we place there and it activates. We will get that copper. So how do we build parts of it? So green put this here, which means we activate this stack, even though it's not our turn. So we are red, and what that means is we played our number 2, so we get 2 of whatever the basic thing is, 2 bolts. So we're gonna take those 2 bolts, I'm gonna plug them into here. Whoa, I just built this room. How cool is that? My spa, which is so me. So I will find the component for that. My other favorite thing is that you're kind of building a little puzzle. So if you're like a puzzle nerd like me, you will probably enjoy just taking these and putting them on your board. So I built my spa, and what that means is now if I were to play my engineer, so if let's say it's my turn now, so we've dealt with all of these chips, let's just pretend, I'm gonna take my engineer, I'm gonna put it here. When I activate these, everybody gets their stuff, and then I will not only get a copper or a bolt, I will not only get to choose any mission that's face up that I've completed and take it and complete it, but I will also get a mayhem point because I've also built this room. The more you upgrade your ship, the more powerful you get. So what else can we get from upgrading our ship? Let's have a look at that. So over here, and this is where the Antoine Bauza comes into play. Antoine Bauza is a fantastic designer, obsessed with symbols. So we're gonna go through some of the symbols on here, some of the symbols on here, and then you pretty much know everything you need to play. So on our ship, what can we get? We can get 2 firepower. This means we would get 5 mayhem, or 3 or 2. These areas also unlock another room for our scientists. So as we unlock more rooms, we can collect more of them. And I'll talk about what scientists do in a moment. The other things that we've got on here is just our upgrades. So this allows us to upgrade our library. Every time we collect a book, it is worth 1 mayhem point at the end of the game, just the value of the book. If we upgrade our library, which we have done, every time we collect a book now, it will be worth a value of 2. So from here on to the point when you upgrade your library, every book you collect is 2. However, if you already have a book in your library when you've upgraded this, then those do not automatically get upgraded, only the ones they're on. So that's the symbols on there. Over here, we've got mayhem, pretty easy. This one means we unlock a scientist room, which we've already talked about. This one means we get to, if we have stolen this building. So in this mission scenario, if we already have this building, then we would have completed that if our henchman was here. This one means I need to have built both of my diamond rooms. So every sheet you'll notice actually has specific symboled rooms. So that's why these are all symbols and not names, because all of the rooms are named different things. The detail in this game is so fun when it comes to the theme. By the way, every ship also has its own engine room and engineer abilities as you upgrade. So that's kind of awesome. The other symbols that you're gonna see on this map, gain a scientist, gain a copper, gain a bolt, just basic symbols like that. So that's all the symbols you need to know. Not that hard, not that scary. So the only thing we have yet to talk about is we know on our turn we're gonna take one of these chips, allot it to a place. When we have a stack of 3, we automatically deal with what that is. But we haven't talked about the scientists. We've talked about our ships, we've talked about symbols. We haven't talked about these guys. So how do scientists work? What do they do? Why do we want them? Scientists, you can actually trade in to get certain rewards. When you trade in a single scientist, so if I wanted to spend one of these guys on my turn, this would happen instead of my turn. What that means is normally when you're taking a chip, how it'll work on your turn is you take the top one, check it out, put that wherever you want. You're allowed to do this even when it isn't your turn, so you can kind of plan ahead a little bit, which will make the game go a lot faster. The playtime on this game is 45 minutes. If you're actually thinking ahead, you could probably play it in 20 if you're playing really quickly. So you gotta look at this and plan. Now, however, if let's say, I really wanted to play my gunner, because let's imagine our firepower is a little better right now, I could spend a scientist and it will allow me to take a chip that I've already used and I can lay it down instead. So I do this instead of taking the top one. That's really cool if you've just used something and you want to use it again, because otherwise this will not refresh until we have laid out and received all of our chips. So if we don't have any chips in a stack, then we just shuffle these to make a new draw pile. Also, I love playing with chips, so this is another fun thing about the game. The other thing that we can do is, if we have 2 scientists on the board, we could trade in those 2 scientists, and what they'll allow us to do is they will allow us to play an additional chip this turn. So instead of me just playing this chip, I would also get to play one more. I could even play both of those chips to activate 2 piles right away if I want to. The other thing you can do is, let's imagine we've unlocked this room. We have 3 scientists here, it's a scientist party. I could play all 3 of these scientists, and what that'll allow me to do is it'll allow me to just straight up steal a building. Does not matter if I have enough firepower. So this could be all the way over here. I'm still allowed to steal a building. How cool is that? Any building I want from anywhere. So I'm gonna say, cool, I want to steal the Big Ben. That's my building now, sweet. And that will still increase the Secret Service meter, but our firepower does not come into play when we steal buildings with scientists. They're so smart, they just know how to do it. So that is how to play the game. You now know what to do, you know the goal, but wait, how do we finish the game? Right, good question. So the game is going to end, like I said before, if this Secret Service meter gets all the way to 12. Secret Service became a little too suspicious of us, so game over. The other way we can end the game is if somebody successfully builds all of the components of their ship, then they will end the game that way. It was tricky. So if you've built all of the components of your ship, just one of us, that will end the game immediately. So be careful about finishing your ship, because there's certainly an amount of timing that can play into that. If you're ahead, it's a good idea to perhaps finish your ship. If you are not ahead, then you might want to hold off a little bit until you're in a better position to win the game, if you like winning. All right, my friends, thank you so much for joining us to watch this how-to of Victorian Masterminds. I hope you love it as much as I do. I really love it. I love it far too much. The other thing that I want to remind you of is, we are a new channel. So please, 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 if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't worry, if you forget and you have Victorian Masterminds, you'll never forget anything because you have your monocle of forgetfulness here. So you'll never forget when it's your turn, and hopefully you'll never forget to subscribe.